Thank you for allowing us to have this interview with you, Your Excellency, and welcome to the Road to Net Zero with Khaleej Times. Your Excellency, the Global South faces a lot of challenges with the climate change. What do you have in mind? What are the challenges? What is there to tell the people? What can we do about these challenges? Do you think these challenges can be, perhaps addressed at COP28 with some tangible outcomes?
Yes, there are quite a number of challenges facing the global south, and more specifically to the African continent. We in Kenya have experienced serious climate crisis because of the devastating effects of whatever is happening currently. Last year, we experienced for the last 40 years the worst drought. And as you know, us in Africa mostly do agriculture. And if there is no rain at all, just because of the climate effects, then it affects quite a lot of things. People go hungry, animals die, and people become more impoverished. So the challenges are there, and climate change crisis is real. Something needs to be done about it. We in Africa, actually about last month on the 4th to the 6th of September, we hosted the first Africa Climate Summit 2023, which was being organized by the African Union. And we tried to put our minds together as the African continent to see how best we can be able to overcome this crisis. And overcoming it is by looking at how best all of us can be able to work towards the UN SDGs to bring down the climate levels by to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And there was a huge declaration on how we should do it. And almost everybody accepted that this is a crisis that actually needs to be addressed by every continent, every person on the planet Earth. And therefore, when it happened, we were very happy to even host the UAE delegation led by His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, who is also the COP28 president designate. And he's coming with his big delegation consisting of another two ministers, one minister for youth and the other minister for climate and environment. It was a way of showing us that whatever is going to happen for COP28 is definitely going to be different because according to Dr. Sultan, there is a lot to be looked at in terms of inclusivity, in terms of equity, in terms of funding, which the Global South have been mostly affected by not being included, by not being given the proper share of their contribution towards solutions to climate change, and also in terms of the financing aspects, which impact heavily on not being able to mitigate against these challenges.
Dr. Sultan attending at Your Excellency, it showed commitment of the UAE and shows to what degree the UAE actually wants tangible outcomes in this COP28. What is your aspirations? What would be a tangible outcome for Kenya, for the African continent, in terms of perhaps, let's start with inclusivity. Let's start with the financing aspect of it. Let's start with even groundwork. You have been affected. You already told us to what degree Kenya, heavily depends on the agricultural sector, and it was affected by the droughts. So maybe, what kind of projects are you looking towards? What are the things that would do that change or would prove the commitment through the change?
The visit by His Excellency Dr. Sultan to us as a country felt like it's going to be different. He sought for our support at not only the national level, but also at the continental level. And the declaration that was done was that we need to support Dr. Sultan. And because of the things he wants to bring on the table during this COP28 summit, we felt like it's going to be different from the others, where we felt that the previous COP 2020 up to 27 have been something that is discussed and then it's not implemented. So with his words of inclusivity and making sure the outcomes are implemented, we strongly feel that he needs our support so that he can change the dynamics, he can change the way the world is looking at climate change by making sure that everybody contributes to the best solutions to overcome this crisis. I can tell you for sure there was commitments, there were pledges to the tune of about $26 billion for mitigation and climate investments. And UAE as a country, actually, out of that $26 billion, pledged about $4.5 billion in transition, adaptation, and investments in renewables. Kenya is one country that is really working very well towards the achievement of the 2030 UNDG, SDGs, where I can tell you that over 90% of our energy generation is actually on renewables.
This is a milestone by itself.
Absolutely, absolutely, it is a milestone. And we thought maybe we'll achieve 100% target by 2030 as per the UN SDGs, but we brought it forward to 2028, that we should be able to achieve the 100% renewable target 2 years earlier. Our president is very passionate about this matter, and he is actually committed also in terms of greening the world, of planting 15 billion trees in 10 years.
In 10 years.
In 10 years. And I can tell you for sure, looking at the way he is dynamic and pragmatic in looking at climate change and how it's affecting everybody, the rich and the poor, we need to support this idea.
Even with the droughts, Your Excellency, you think that it's possible to reach that number?
It is possible. It is, I can tell you, it is possible. But it requires the concerted efforts of everyone.
So a consensus, a collaboration.
Exactly. One country alone cannot be able to achieve it. But if you put all our heads together, if you put all our discussions and solutions together, and if we do that and commit to implementing what we have decided to do, for sure it is achievable.
You think the private sector plays a fair share, in terms of perhaps assuring that something is done in terms of climate mitigation?
The private sector has not been a strong player previously, and that's why Dr. Sultan is talking about inclusivity, making sure that no one is left behind, from the rich to the poor, from the indigenous communities, from the poor countries, the rich countries. Everybody should be on the table because we are all affected. And therefore, if we are able to put everybody's mind onto the issues that are facing us as the planet Earth, for sure a solution should be available.
Your Excellency, do you think there is awareness now, or do you think that awareness has to also reach certain perhaps people within the society, or do people comprehend the degree of what's happening?
Absolutely, they do. Everybody is. Before we came here, I told you of a story when I was growing up.
Yes.
I was a young man growing in the rural village. Our small stream, which used to flow through our land, which we are farming, used to have fish, used to have tadpoles, used to have all kind of animals and birds around, operating around the waters. But currently, you pass there 60 years down the line, and the river is non-existent. You cannot say that this is not affecting people. It is really affecting people, because 50 or 60 years ago, the world is not the same just because of what is happening currently. What we don't know is, how do we make the people who are polluting most should be able to understand that this thing of climate crisis is affecting everybody, and therefore they should change their way of doing things.
Your Excellency, do you think, regardless of uh, perhaps international geopolitical differences, still we'll have an outcome from this COP?
I believe they should. They should have a way of looking at things unlike before, so that the outcomes are favorable to everybody, are favorable to whatever everybody is facing. And even one thinks that is not going to go by what is expected of them, then it will affect them
Absolutely.
and affect the rest of us.
Humanity in general.
Exactly.
Your Excellency, has there been, let's say, some groundwork and collaboration between the UAE and Kenya in terms of perhaps renewable energy projects in Kenya itself?
Yes, there has been. As we speak, there is an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, in investments towards geothermal development. Kenya is amongst the top 10 countries globally who have reserves of geothermal ready to be exploited. And as late as 2 months ago, there started discussions on how Mazda, a renewable company in
Yes.
UAE, will be able to go to Kenya and start developing renewable energy through geothermal.
What do you think of the relationship with the UAE? Do you think
It's quite good. The relationship between Kenya and UAE is quite warm, quite cordial, and I can tell you for sure, it didn't start yesterday. Kenya and UAE started relations way back in the 80s.
I saw the pictures?
And I showed you the picture of His Highness Sheikh Zayed.
Yes.
May God have mercy on him. When he actually went to Nairobi, went to Masai Mara, he went to Lake Bogoria in 1984, and he was impressed that those geothermal reserves, he could be able to taste, that salty hot water that was coming from the hot springs in Kenya. And ever since that time, the relations have been growing quite broadly and deeply, and we are still on it, trying to make it even better. In fact, we're in the process currently of signing the CEPA agreement, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. But even if it has not been signed right now, already in existence is close to about 15 instruments of cooperation that have already been signed between Kenya and UAE. And we are looking forward to also having the fourth round of our JCC, where we have aligned close to a similar number of instruments of cooperation ready for signing.
So it's a very deep-rooted relationship. It's a very old relationship, and it is of importance, of course, to both our leadership, our people. Your Excellency, is there anything that perhaps you would like to share with us? You would like to share with the people? Is there any kind of advice? Is there anything you would like to say through our show?
I'm happy that Khaleej Times is doing a commendable job by actually picking up this kind of interviews. They are able to, disseminate information of countries on the way they are looking forward to the COP28, and also showcase what countries have to offer during the COP28. It's also important for you to know also that media houses play a crucial role in terms of making people to meet connections people-to-people connections,
Yes.
and also show how each country has in terms of opportunities and investments.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.